Okay, good morning and welcome to Iyun with Benzion, Yevamos Samech Vav 66. We have an interesting new topic to talk about. It revolves around something not so practical now, eating truma. It used to be when we weren't Tmei Mason, we weren't had a tumor of dead people, so Kohanim were in a state of Tara and they could eat truma. Truma, if you eat it when you're tame, you're liable to curry, so we don't really eat it nowadays. Truma, you have to take off truma in Eretz Israel, but we burn it or get rid of it. Wait till it rots. You don't, you can't eat truma nowadays. But in the time where you could eat truma, or Bimhera v'Yameinu, when the base of Mikdash will be rebuilt, they'll get to eat truma again. We'll have the paraduma. We'll cleanse the kohanim. They can eat their truma again. Now, let's say the Mishnah discusses an interesting case where a woman gets married, normally Israelis. She's not a Kohen, not the family of a Kohen. She marries into a Kohen. Wow, she gets to eat truma. Not only does she get to eat truma, if the Kohen himself buys slaves, or even if he marries a woman, the woman then buys slaves. Her slave that she bought now can eat truma. The whole family gets to eat truma. They're part of the family. They get to eat truma. What about though if she's married illegally to him, meaning she's an almana, she's a widow, and he's a kohen gadol, or it's a regular kohen, and she's a grusha, she's a divorced woman, or chalutza. She had chalitza done to her, so she's not allowed to be married to him. So now what happens? So the Mishnah makes a distinction that if she can't eat, that's clear. She's not allowed to eat. Why is she not allowed to eat? Uh, so you can say two reasons over there. First of all, if we're talking about a case where they're married. If they're married, should be an almana who's a kohen gadol who's boel and almana. He makes her a halala, or a kohen is boel a grusha. He makes her a halala. She's disqualified from the kahuna. She lacks the kedusha's kahuna, even though she's married, part of the kahuna Cohen family. She's called Cohen. Her last name is Cohen. It doesn't really make a difference. She's a halala, and she can't eat. And there's a second reason she can't eat, and this is what I'm really proffering today, is that even if there is no bia, and he did nisuin through chuppah or some other way, they did yichud, which according to a lot of Rishonim would affect nisuin. There's another reason she can't eat. It's because they're legally married. Because there's no marriage. There's no marriage. An illegal marriage. An illegal marriage. If a Kohen is mekadesh, she does kiddushin to a grusha, so that we don't pass the Rebbe. We say kiddushin tofsin mechayve lav, and since it's only asram din lav, it's not kares, so therefore the kiddushin is tofsin. And technically, the Gemara says that arusa bas yisrael chas b'truma, that if there is kiddushin and a woman is engaged to a Kohen, she can already eat truma. Midrabanan, they make zeiros, they say she shouldn't eat truma. Midraisa, she could eat truma. But I'm suggesting that when she gets married, then she loses that ability to eat truma, even with the rice on it. The rice level, she loses that ability to eat truma because it's not a marriage. It's not a marriage. I like to suggest over here that there's two. Even though this comes from a pasuk, the Gemara it's a pasuk in the Torah. The Torah says, "The Kohen ki yikin and nefesh kinyan kasper hu yochal bo." This is a pasuk quoted in the middle of Samachom and Aleph. When he makes a kinyan kaspo, the Gemara darshans kinyan kaspo to include even a man who's ma'aris, he's makadesh a woman, he gives her kesef kiddushin. That's the normal way of doing kiddushin. He gives her a ring, it's worth kesef. So therefore he acquired her. So therefore, even though she's only arusa, so therefore she could eat truma. Then it says also kinyan nefesh. So then kinyan nefesh. So the Gemara darshans for something else. It's the double lashon of kinyan, that even if he acquires a woman and the woman acquires slaves, or he acquires slaves and the slave acquires slaves, they get to eat truma. But also, it tells you kinyan nefesh is a kinyan nisuin, I believe. There's a kinyan kiddushin and kinyan nisuin, two things, like we're talking kinyan yibam and kinyan nisuin. There's a kinyan kiddushin and a kinyan nisuin. And kinyan nisuin is basically when the ksuva takes effect and the Baal owes her, he has to feed her, mazonos. A woman who's mekudesh him, I don't believe has to feed her unless 12 months pass. And then by the time he said, I'm going to get married in 12 months, and 12 months passed, he didn't get married, he reneged on the marriage, on getting married right away, he has to feed her. Otherwise, he doesn't have to feed her. He doesn't have to feed a woman who's an arusa. But when they get married, he's chayiv. The ksuba says you're chayiv to feed, you sustain your wife. You have to feed her. You have to provide money for her food. So when she's mikudeshes to him, she's allowed to eat truma, but not from him. He doesn't have to provide her truma. It's a heter for her to eat truma midoraisa, but not from him. The chiyah, when they get married, the allowance for eating Shuruma is Novea. It's coming from the Din Mizonos. This is a big chiddush I'm saying. Is that there's two different ways of her eating Shuruma. When she's engaged, she eats based on the fact that she's Mikudeshes to a Kohen, and that allows her, gives her a chance to eat Shuruma. But when they get married, the truma is coming from the chi of mizonos. First is the mizonos, that's a feeder. And I would like to suggest, you have to look into this, but if you're married to someone you're not allowed to be married to, the ksuva does not take effect. You can't be married to someone you're not married to. The Isra in the Torah, ki yikach grusha, yikach is marriage, nisuin. To get married to someone, to be married to someone, disqualifies the marriage and disqualifies the ksuba. We'll see if there is in the Maran Ksuvas whether she actually collects a Ksuva or not, but you can collect a Ksuva from an Erison, even from the Erison is enough to guarantee you the Ksuva. But the Chiv Mazonis, the feeder, really only starts from the Nisuin. And the Truma that she gets when she's married to him is a direct result of the Chiv Mazonis, I guess, to sustain her. He has to sustain her. Part of being able to sustain her is the able to sustain her from actual money that he gets. He's able to get a good financial support from the Truma that people give him every month. So since there's no mazonos, chiv mazonos, because there's no nisuin over here, so therefore she loses the ability to eat truma. It would be a radical explanation to say that the heter for eating truma, the kinyan nefesh, is a different heter when the kinyan eir in, and therefore she loses it. That's clear from a Mishnah. She loses it. That's clear from the Mishnah. The Mishnah, the Gemara says another chiddush that call a Michael, which is really, there's three reasons why the Nechse Milug, her Avadim that her Nechse Milug can't eat. That's clear in the Mishnah. They belong to her. Then if they Milug more than the Avis on Barzel, the Avnei Milug can't eat because they're her Avadim. And since she can't eat, so therefore, call Ochel Eno Michael, call Ochel Michael, call She'eno Ochel Eno Michael, she can't eat, she can't feed that which belongs to her. Nechse Milug definitely belongs to her, the Baal Ochel Peiros, but definitely belong to her. She can't eat, and that would have to mean over here that since she is disqualified from eating truma from the Kohen, so therefore it invalidates the whole. It's coming from the kinyan nefesh, not the kinyan kaspa. Kinyan nefesh, she doesn't eat, so therefore her property also is included in the kinyan nefesh, and therefore just like she can't eat, the avodim, the niflim milu can't eat. It would be a radical explanation, and the nafkamina would be if there was a bia or not, because if she's a halala, she can't eat, but she's disqualified. But if there's another reason she can't eat, because there's no valid nisuin, and the mazonos that he's chayav to her, truma is part of that mazonos, and truma, the heter to eat truma is lost in that marriage, so there the heter to eat truma is lost. So that would have nafkamina, even if it was just yichud, there was no bia, it's not a halala yet. She still can't eat, and our avodim can't eat, Nechse can't eat. And also, the whole idea, I think, that Kol Ochel Eno Michael is really based on the fact that she is disqualified for eating Truma based on the fact that she's married to someone she's not being married to. Hope you enjoyed today's shir. See you in Mishnah Yomi. Bye.